let's talk about the great South Salt Lake. You know, Miss Mayor, you got a lot of plans for this community. Tell us a little bit of what your vision is, and then I've been given this list of things to ask you about. I'm going to talk about everything. So, what are your plans for South Salt Lake? It's not that little industrial community that it was 95 years ago. It's now a bustling little city that has all kinds of amenities to it. Tell us a little bit about what your vision is.
Awesome. Well, first, thanks for having me today. Any opportunity I get to talk about South Salt Lake is exciting for me because that is my passion, is this community. I've been mayor now for almost 12 years. And in those 12 years, I think that the city has seen a lot of transformation. I think that we have seen a lot of amenities come online for all ages. And always looking at how we can benefit all of our residents, right? Whatever age range they land in. We understand that we're very diverse in culture, but we're also very diverse in age groups. And so my vision is one, first to listen. My parents lived in South Salt Lake until just last year. We had to, they lived in a home with lots of stairs, and we had to get them on one level, and we couldn't find anything like that in South Salt Lake. So that was kind of the situation that really made me sit back and understand that we still have gaps in all that we're doing as a community. We still have some gaps. So I would always talk to them, and I have their perspective and insight, being South Salt Lakers as well. So what we're doing right now is we're doing our general plan. We haven't done one since 2009, but we're excited to be doing it now. And as part of that, it's just listening to see what our seniors feel like they're missing in their community. So doing listening right now to hear as this process moves forward. You know, a lot of them want to feel safe in their homes and in their neighborhoods.
So is that where your excuse me if you interrupt me, but is that where your community resident values survey comes into place? Besides your own vision, you now want to make sure that you capture the visions of the people who live in the community. So this survey really aligns itself to saying, what do you want here? What do you do here? What do you think ought to be here? Is that what the survey is all about?
Exactly. And why are you here? And my favorite answer to that right now is because we're so diverse and people want to be a part of that. So yeah, that's exactly what we're doing right now. This general plan will basically direct a lot of the decisions that are made in the city for the next 10 years. So I can pretend to know what I think that the community needs, but I think we will solve more community issues if we're listening to what the residents want.
Well, we got Councilwoman Sharla on here as well. How does, and I know you seem to have a very nice rooted foundation with your city council. How does that work with the city council, Sharla, where you're talking directly with the mayor, you're talking about the things that need to be? How do you look at that from a zoning perspective? What do you, as a city council person, looking to achieve with facilitating the mayor's vision and the community's vision?
Well, I think right now we're in a prime position to really take all stakeholders into account. We're starting the budget process. So we've had all of the council members, you know, list their budget priorities. And now we're going to have the mayor and staff present their budget priorities. But we're also going back to this survey because it should all meld together as we move forward. So I think budget is a big part of that. But then when it comes to zoning, if you're familiar with the process, a lot of these things go forward with the Planning Commission, and then they make recommendations and bring them to us. But we'll always come back to that general plan. So that's this general plan is so important. Staff and the planning commission will make recommendations based on that general plan, and they will cite specific things within that general plan for us to consider when we're making zoning decisions. So it's a really critical piece.
Well, in today's atmosphere of political confusion, conflict, and whatever you want to call, whether you're Republican, whether you're Democrat, that's not the issue. It seems to me that South Salt Lake is looking at it from the perspective, what do the people need? Not what the party needs, but what the people need in order to orchestrate great living, good living, and prosperous living. And how can the city become a strong economic foundation for both of those factors? And sometimes we get caught up in the economic side of it, which is the business side of it, and we forget about the livable side of it, which is, I want to have a good home, I want to live well, I want to be comfortable, I want to be able to access the grocery store, the post office, the donut shop. I like donuts, that's why I threw that in there, you know. But but all of those things come into play. And it seems to me that you guys have constructed, and I don't know if this is by design, a livable political process that people can count on their elected officials to be thinking about more than just themselves, but think about how we make this population interactive. I represent, or at least I'm attempting to represent, seniors. And I think that we are a forgotten lot, and we need to be back into the system. We need to be back into the workplace. We need to have affordable living so we can facilitate our fixed incomes, many of which have fixed income. All of that is a lot for you to think about. What's the interaction between the mayor's office and the city council group? And I would like both of you to chime in on that, to let me hear. And I know you took my sweet potato pie to the mayor, so she's a sweet potato pie girl. I get that now. I got you, girl.
Yes, you do. I've never had one, so that
Really?
was an amazing experience. Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I see you
Thank
smiling,
you so
so I
much.
know you
I
liked
felt
it. You
super
know,
spoiled.
no, my pleasure. You deserve.
Yep.
You
It's super
deserve a
delicious.
lot of good attention. You're really a nice lady, and I can't thank you enough for being on here. You got a lot going on. The Good Landlord Program. Tell me about that. What is that?
So do you want me to talk about the
Everything.
politics first
Everything.
and then go to the landlord? Okay.
Yes.
We'll cover it all.
Yes.
So now being mayor, so I've worked here since I was 19. So I've worked here 27 years. I kind of worked up to the, started at a front desk job and then worked up and ran for mayor. So I've been here a long time, and I've seen a lot of mayors and councils and how they interact and the impact that it has on a community.
Right.
So some of probably my most important lessons I have learned are probably ones on what not to do. So the community comes first. The community needs come first. Municipal government is not partisan politics, even though it tends to eke in there. But I think that that's why I'm not really interested in doing politics outside of municipal government, because it is partisan, and I need to be able to make decisions based off what's the best thing for the community and not necessarily for an agenda.
Right.
So we've had councils that were very difficult to work with. And, unfortunately, the community pays for that. We didn't get a lot done. But now we have a really good council. Communication is key. Sharla is the council chair, and she does an amazing job making sure that everybody has a seat at the table and everybody's perspective is considered. And I think if I, as a mayor, and the council as council members can't have an open, honest discussion about why we need to do these things,
Right.
the why behind it, maybe we're not doing it for the right reasons. And so I really try to force the conversation around why the community needs this and why we need to do this. So the good landlord, I'll let Sharla talk.
Yes.
Should I let Sharla talk about it and then I'll
Yes.
good landlord. Okay.
Yes. Go ahead, Sharla. You got your key.
All right. All right. Well, good landlord program. And I can let the mayor, she's been around a lot longer than me in the city, speak to when it was started. But the main purpose is that we have business licenses for people who are landlords, and they get a significant reduction if they go through our good landlord program. So they're looking for how to weed out undesirable tenants, tenants that might bring an increase in crime, issues that will drain our resources. So we're trying to prevent that, because we did have a problem with that. So if you go through the good landlord program, you're really screening your renters. And then once your renters are there, if we have a lot of calls for service from police, or there are a lot of issues, then the landlord can actually face some fines and whatnot. So it's in their benefit to make sure they have good renters in there who will not bring nuisance issues to our city. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. But that was a huge issue. It's been a problem, but it has been getting better.
Let me ask Jen. Jen, you're sitting back there. What's your role in all of this major governmental movement in the community?
Well, hello. I wasn't expecting to speak, but I will. I was hired as a public outreach coordinator for the city.
Yes.
And my role is to convey the messages of the mayor and other important city events, etc., to the public. So I get to do all sorts of fun things.
So convey that message. Let me hear what that message sounds like.
So for instance, if you pick up the City Journal once a month and look at the newsletter, the On the Move newsletter, that is written by yours truly and Julie Taylor and Sharon Hari, and also contributors for all the departments. But the people that pull that all together and the messaging for the city is a team of, in essence, 2 to 3 people. So we're a small group, but we all are very invested in the city. I personally have a lot of respect for the mayor. I have a lot of respect for council person Sharla, but I know her personally. She reached out to me as a resident, and then I later wrote an article as a writer for Salt Lake Magazine and met Mayor Wood. And so through those experiences, I heard the story of South Salt Lake, and I thought it was quite compelling. And I have a lot of respect for how this city government runs.
Right.
And it's also, the message in March was all about women, and because it's Women's History Month. And so we talked about the evolution of city government and how now the cabinet is a 50-50 split. Right. Of women to men, whereas 10 years ago there was one woman to 20 cabinet members. And the same is true with the city council. Out of the 7, we now have 5 of the 7 women to men. So anyway.
Well, I get the feeling that you guys have really got your foot on the accelerator, and you're accelerating the good things. Since I have my son here, and I know I want to charm him in, you're doing all kinds of things in all kinds of groups. What kinds of things are you doing with young people? And I'm going to let him speak to what he's attempting to do and want to do here in South Salt Lake. But we need to start incubating these young people and getting them into business, and getting them into business so they stay in our community, they live in our community, and they build an economic foundation for themselves in the community. Seth, let me ask you, what kinds of things are you thinking about, and what would you say to the mayor about those things?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me here. You can't see me. I hope you all can hear me. My name's Seth Brown. I'm 21 years old. I am the co-founder of an organization called Hive. which is a business incubator, creative business incubator of sorts, targeting the Gen Z population along the Wasatch Front. I'm a member of Gen Z. It's a generation that Adobe has dubbed Generation Create. And we see that creativity in the arts and artistry is something that's really important to young people, you know. And what we've also noticed is that there's a lot of barriers to entry, especially for low income or other marginalized, you know, groups within Generation Z. And so what we're trying to do is offer a creative space, offer creative tools, offer creative expertise to these perhaps marginalized individuals who want to, you know, make music or want to make a fashion brand or just take pictures, but they don't have the capacity to actually get into that. So what we're trying to do is help those people using the expertise that we have. We've built up a pretty strong team of creatives, helping them shoot those music videos, giving them advice, giving them tips on how to monetize and ultimately profit from their creative endeavors. And we think this is really important. And so what we're doing right now is we're actually looking at different spaces throughout the Valley. And having spent time with my dad here in Salt Lake, or South Salt Lake, and I've also worked with the Salt Lake County Department of Economic Development and actually been able to sit in on some meetings at South Salt Lake's City Hall. We've definitely understood that South Salt Lake, more than a lot of other places in the Valley, is a community that at this point in time is capable and willing to redefine or continue to define their community's narrative. And we believe that young people, just as much as seniors or anybody else, should have an ability to contribute to that collective narrative. We think that that narrative should be one based on creativity, authentic expression through creativity, and all those other things. So I guess my question for you, having heard a little bit about what I'm trying to do, is how much of a priority is the arts and creativity as you're, you know, defining these policy goals, et cetera, for South Salt Lake?
So I would say that our youth is a huge priority. We have 14 neighborhood centers. They all have different specific themes that they highlight on. The one that's run from Historic Scott School is specifically just for the arts. We want our kids to be able to plug in and be able to be creative, and we really want to feed that ability. We have one that's for recreation. We have one that's STEM, that's got STEM emphasis in it. But then I think the one that we have that's very unique to the state of Utah is our Best Buy Teen Tech Center that's located in our Columbus Community Center, and that is we have state of the art. Everything. We have a sound booth where kids can go in there and make music. We have video capabilities, videoing, interviewing. I can't even do it justice. We have so much, but it is the first one. We had to go to Denver that was the closest one before we got ours and see what it was. But it's really it's an opportunity to get those entrepreneurial juices going in our youth and show them, you know, have them try a bunch of different things out and see what stick, you know, what are their passions and how can we help them be successful. So as much time and energy we like to spend on our seniors, I don't know if that comes from me raising my sons here, growing up here, and then having parents that are seniors here, and just knowing that you have, you know, a large range of ages that a community needs to provide events and spaces for. But our youth has been, actually, if I was to say what in my 12 years has been the thing that I'm most proud of, it is that opportunity that we have given to our youth in these after school programs, in these centers where they can, you know, find out what capable of, and be sitting next to college students that will tell them that, you know, hey, I grew up kind of like you. My story's similar, but, you know, I'm at Westminster College. I'm getting ready to graduate, and, you know, this or that, and say, you can do this too. And so these are just opportunities to have mentors with our youth. And specifically, you know, for our underrepresented youth has really been who we focus a lot of time and effort on. We want them to be happy and healthy, and we want them to be super successful.
Absolutely. I don't want to take up too much time, but I appreciate you all letting me come on here and speak a little bit about that. I definitely think it needs to be a collaborative effort between all members of our community, seniors, youth, as you mentioned. And I'm extremely excited to hear that South Salt Lake, you know, values and prioritizes the importance of creativity, because I think it is something that is super central to a lot of my generation's identity, and that's something that we want to continue to foster and grow as we, you know, build our communities. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Well,
And if you ever want to mentor our youth, let us know. We have lots of opportunities.
Always looking for
You can
mentors.
check out our
So I appreciate that.
SI Teen Tech Center. So yeah.
you got so much going on in this community. It's really exciting and it's stimulating and so forth. I know you got digital equity. What is digital equity?
Yeah, that's realizing that we have gaps in the ability for our different residents to be able to connect digitally. So whether that's our seniors, whether that's our youth, we are currently going after numerous grants we're working closely with Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County Mayor's Office, with United Way of Salt Lake, going after a fairly large grant that would address the digital divide that's in our community. And we just got Google Fiber. We're continually working with them to try to find out ways that we can provide free internet access for our youth that may need it for school or just to pursue their passions, and also our seniors.
You have,
because we find that that's our biggest gaps.
That's the balance that makes a really a strong community. I listened to this, and I've attended several meetings, and I'm on the steering committee. And what has really excited me is that you've got this basket filled with all of these different kind of people coming together with a common goal, and that's how do we make this a place that everybody wants to come to. And I think that that's so exciting because we've lost the sense of neighborhoods. We've lost the sense of neighbors in this, I don't know what to call it, but South Salt Lake is taking a position that you're bringing all of these things back. When I grew up a few years ago, I was a young man. My neighborhood was so important to me. We claimed it. Hey, I lived in the Bayview area when I was growing up in San Francisco. That was important to us. We took ownership of that. And I sense that that's what you're doing. Had a chance to meet Mark Madero up at Level Crossing. What an interesting guy. What an interesting entrepreneur. He's trying to do some unique things up there. And I'm really, really happy. I don't want to keep you guys on long, but I would like to hear what is most important from each of you, what you think we ought to be doing as a community to help you facilitate those needs. And Mayor, I will let you start that off before we get out of this session. And the other thing that I would ask of you is that we do this monthly or bi-monthly, that we come on and you let us know what you need, what you're doing, and how we can better help you help us.
Perfect. I'd be happy to do this as often as you would like. Again, we look for ways that we can sure.
I love you. Thank you.
Yeah. Sweet potato pie will make me do a lot of awesome things. So anyway, you were always looking for ways to connect with our community. And, you know, again, a vast range of ages, and just getting our messages out. And, you know, we beg to hear from people.
Right.
In fact, in this general plan, there was a lot of thought put to who would be on the steering committee, because we want all areas of our city. And I think, James, you've heard some conversations saying we feel like we're not representing this demographic
Right.
on the steering committee. And so, you know, we're looking to fill all those gaps so that everybody has a seat at the table. And until you have a conversation that includes everybody with a seat at the table and an environment that allows people to share their perspectives and their needs,
Right.
you're not going to solve problems. You're not going to create community. And so that's what we're really trying to do. And I am just grateful that we have the opportunity to do the general plan, because I think that's perfect timing for us to really, you know, South Salt Lake's transformed in 10 years. A lot's happened. What do the residents like? What don't they like? What can we do to make our seniors feel safe, or our youth feel safe? Sorry. But just looking at, I guess, all areas of our community.
Great. And
Was there one other question? No.
if it is, I forgot. I'm a senior. I've lost my memory too, you know. Well, I'll think of it. I'll always come back. Sharla, would you like to add to that, please?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what the mayor has said. I think one of our big problems is getting people involved. We tend to have the same people, you know, show up and make comments at city council meetings, and then we just haven't had a voice from everyone. And so I really appreciate the city's efforts to make sure we're doing that outreach and we're trying to get everyone involved. The other thing I think is we're always, and especially on the city council, we're looking at budget and how to expand our tax base, especially when we do have that senior population, or we have, you know, a vulnerable population here on a fixed income. We try to look at all these alternatives before we raise property taxes or things like that. So expanding our tax base goes a long way. So those are two things that are constantly on my mind. And I would just go back to Seth. I would say you're in the right place if you're looking at starting something here in South Salt Lake. When I came on the council, there were 5 community centers, and they were mostly in the elementary. We've expanded up into the high schools. I'm a 24-year veteran educator. I think I've personally seen the good things we're doing with our youth, and we would love to add another layer onto that. So we welcome you, and I would love to work with you on that too. So I just appreciate the time today. I appreciate that you're trying to add things to South Salt Lake and bring your perspective, because we're always looking to partner. We can't do this alone.
Very good. Hey, how many low-income housing units do you have in South Salt Lake?
So we will have a better number once this general plan is completed.
Right.
So that's something we're really looking at, and creating a database to understand what stock we have. So I don't have a number. Yeah, not enough.
Not enough. That's a good
But
thing. But you're willing to make more.
Yeah, for sure. And we always look in our conversations with developers on how we can incentivize, you know, if they're doing 200 units, you know, how many median income and how many low income can they provide, or, you know, maybe if we change ordinances, we can require them to have a percentage of low income being built. So I just think that right now, there's the conversation's completely different because of COVID, but I almost think it's opened the door to have an amazing conversation about building community back from this and what that looks like.
Well,
So
I think the great thing about it's condenses not the right word, but everything is so connected in this community that it makes it easy to live and work and play. And while I'm thinking about that, are we doing any innovative tax-based initiatives that would allow, say, the business tax or the arts tax to benefit maybe developing green areas or those kind of things? Is there some, because money seems to be always the bottom line. What can we do? We could do everything if we had all the funding. Is there a way to monopolize that tax money, especially from businesses, or even as it goes to the arts community? Is there a way to use those dollars to help improve certain things and build a better foundation so businesses can get in here? One of the things that I'm hearing is the difficulty in getting permits and licensing and all of those things. And I think you guys address those issues. But what can we do from a money standpoint as a city to help facilitate this diversity in business?
So do you want to go, Sharla?
Well, I can kind of talk about the licensing and permits for a moment. We have had a hard time funding and making sure we're fully staffed. So we've had some issues with that, but we're working towards that. The council had to make that a priority.
Right.
We've had some issues with council not necessarily believing in that. And so, you know, I put that on the council, quite frankly. We needed to make that a priority, to make our staff cannot do their jobs properly if they are not funded at an adequate FTE. If they don't have the staff to do their job, then we're going to have issues. And so I think that kind of goes back to but I can let the mayor speak to the other part.
So I would say that we have stretched our tax dollars to the extreme. We have not raised property taxes in South Salt Lake since 2006. So we're running a city in 2021 on $2,006. Right. That 14 community center, the majority of that is through grants and partnerships where we have gone and partnered. We always look at, since there is so much development going on right now in our community, our parks impact fees, that's what they're called. I apologize. Parks impact fees, because, you know, with more people, we also need to provide up our service, meaning we need additional acreages of green space for our residents to enjoy. So we look at those things. We also look at impact fees. The state legislature kind of controls what we can and can't do, how municipal governments how they can fund their budgets. And so there's a lot of hoops that we have to jump through, but you know, I have an amazing staff that's willing to jump through those hoops and loves to be a part of this team right now and see the momentum that we've got going in the community. And you know, they're willing to jump through hoops and find extra dollars and partner with private and other government agencies to really, you know, provide a bigger bang for the buck living here.
Well, from my perspective, in meeting all of these wonderful people, I have not been in the company of such vigorously thinking young people, and I'm calling the seniors young people as well. But what a wonderful community you have, and compliments to you, Mayor, for an outstanding job of selecting incredible individuals who have open minds and open hearts and really trying to find a way to make this a great community, and is doing that. So I lend my support in every way that I can. I will be a voice of this city and will raise my voice as loud as it can get to talk about everything you're doing in any way that I can help. I appreciate all of you joining me. Jen, thank you for coordinating this and giving me this incredible list of things to say. I went, whoa, they did all of these things. So it's a great community. Seth, thank you for joining us, and I appreciate you putting your little 55 cents in it. But we'll do it again and again. Mayor, thank you so much. Sharla, thank you very much.
Hey, James, I just want to say we're lucky to have you as a resident here in South Salt Lake. And I'm so grateful you're involved and you're sharing your voice.
Thank you very much.